We are.
Are we on? Is the camera on?
We can start anytime.
Is it already on? Okay. Shall we?
Let me do the.
I think we're gonna keep this.
Just one more hit from that chick, so I quit. Who's laughing now? Said you were astro traveling. Where you going? Where you been? Oh, your lies unraveling, traveling, traveling. Through my heart through graveling. Can't take back what I've seen. No, time to make this bed. You've been lying in. You've been lying in. You've been lying in. Who's Georgia? You say Georgia's just a friend. Who's Georgia? Georgia's just a friend.
All right. Welcome to Uncharted Talks. My name is Jack Hughes. Today I'm with a very, very talented person. And not only with a very talented musician, but also with my co-host for the first time. His name is Andrew Marak.
Hello.
Yeah, we have Tiana Khasi with us.
Hello.
Big round of applause for that. Welcome to India, first of all. Tiana, I just want to say namaste first.
Kublai.
And
Kublai.
because you're Khasi too.
Yes.
And yeah, how's it going?
It's good. It's been very busy and intense. India has it has like the chaos, and then it also has the moments either in nature or just these special spiritual moments where you go, I feel the peace and the calm wash over me, even in the chaos.
That's pretty nice and unique answer that we have got here. So great to see someone who has like come from so far, especially for her
Yeah.
area.
Yes.
It's like I would just like to say you're doing amazing again.
Thank you. Thank you.
We're pretty excited to see you live.
The pressure's on.
Pressure's
I think it really hit me when I first arrived in
Okay.
Shillong and we got here and people from the festival, from the Hills Festival, greeted us. And it really hit me in that moment that the music that I'd made had reached all the way here, and the fact that it was music that brought us here. So I felt really just stoked to arrive and to have made it this far. And then it hit me. I'm like, I still have to perform. This is not even over yet. It's like one thing to just get here. That's half the job. And then the next part is actually performing. So yeah, I'd had to like prepare myself for that too.
I think it's been a big hassle for you, no? Like
No,
away from Australia, then like coming all the way here.
I think it's important to do though, because I think otherwise, yeah, it's so easy to lose connection if you don't. For me, I think it's really important to have connection with the land that you come from. And yeah, being in Australia, I'm not First Nations, I'm not Aboriginal, or I don't have necessarily that indigenous connection to Australian land. I was really privileged and fortunate to, be born there and to have all the privileges of being raised in places like Australia. But at the same time, I knew that for me personally, part of my purpose and my work as a musician and also just in my family is to make the effort to always go back to the places that our family comes from, to keep the connection alive and yeah, make sure that our history and our ancestors aren't forgotten, in assimilation.
So it's basically like going back to the roots.
Yes.
That's like I think Andrew, he showed me your pictures, stories when you came back to Shillong. So I'm not wrong. If we are not wrong, you went back to a place where your grandfather maybe took a picture somewhere and you went to the same place and took a picture yesterday or day before.
I think, my grandparents, obviously, like I've been here a lot and had traveled and taken photos. I can't remember an exact photo that you might be referencing, but yeah, it has been really special though to go to some of like the natural sites and know that I've got photos of my family that have been there as well. So yeah, I've got some really beautiful photos of my grandparents and my great grandparents in Meghalaya that I would love to remake those photos, like redo the shots as like before and after, generations on.
Generations.
Yeah, that's really important to me.
That's pretty nice, and it's so good to hear again. Like when somebody speaks about reconnecting with their like ancestors.
Yeah.
No way that going back to the place where your people belong from. Again, I think I'm pretty curious about one thing. Again, your name is Tiana Khasi. Staying in Australia, having that last name. So why this name Khasi? Why you could have kept anything?
Yeah. I guess there were a few factors. Some were really practical, which was I needed to pick a name that no one else had. And so Kasi is pretty rare. But also I knew that by choosing because my last name, my real last name, I've kept that private. So Kasi is not my actual surname, it's my performance name. But, when I started releasing music and pursuing my career in music, I needed something that grounded me, and my name would be something that sort of keeps my direction really clear and would keep my purpose anchored in everything that I do, from the lyrics that I might write or, even the visuals that represented it. I really wanted to make sure that the name that I was using gave me a direction. And yeah, I think in my family, my great granny is Khasi. She's obviously passed away, but yeah, my dad had made a promise to her when she passed away that he wouldn't let his children forget our Khasi heritage. And so for me, having that in my name, and especially, once something's on the internet, once you put something out there, you can't take it back. So I didn't want to have anything in my name that I would regret, and I can't deny that part of myself. And it also meant that it gave me this vessel to keep, putting archives of either family history or telling new stories from a different perspective of being Khasi, but being Khasi in an Australian, mixed race, mixed heritage context. It's a very specific thing, but I think it's still important to keep telling those stories. So, every time if people discover my music, or, I'm meeting new people in music and they ask about my name, it's also an opportunity where I get to speak about Meghalaya, I get to speak about the Khasi people. It's such a small part of the world that, the Khasi people could easily be forgotten about. But, because there's so many, there's so many people, there's so many tribes, there's all these different things going on that I think there's a lot to learn from Khasi people. So having it in my name gives me this opportunity to highlight and uplift Khasi culture, the things that I'm learning about it, things that I think the world would benefit from knowing about Khasi people, the relationship to the land. I feel like there's a lot of things that people would benefit from if they knew about Khasi people.
Absolutely. And I feel like the world would be very, curious to know that Khasi is one of the few matrilineal.
Yes. Yes.
So that's something that people should know about. Like,
Yeah.
we know about this, but a lot of people outside, even in India, are not aware of that fact.
That's it. I think as well, like, in places like Australia, Australia is still technically a colony. We're still under the British. we're not independent from the British crown or anything like that. I think it's really easy in places like Australia and maybe, other countries where they just think India is all the same. They just think they maybe associate it more with like the culture of the South, the food of the South. They think that everyone speaks Hindi, or, I think people don't understand that there's such a diversity of people, cultures, religion, food, and then you mention something like the Khasi people and matrilineal societies and, the very specific things that come from Khasi culture in relation to the environment. And I think it kind of lets people open their mind more to the fact that, India is not just one thing that's painted with one brush. There's so much going on. There's so much to learn.
Funny story that, like when you mentioned about people outside, right? Outside the country, they
Yeah.
think that India is only one.
Yeah.
All of them, they speak Hindi. I think now everybody knows that in India, people speak more English than anywhere.
It's just been the common language that I can get by with.
And the second thing is, again, you did mention that they think that, people from India are mostly from South.
Yes.
I feel so angry when outside people, they think that we speak English like the way some of the people speak, and so they try to make fun of it. We know what I'm saying, right? Hey, the certain way, this accent. Is a certain accent, but India's not that. different diversity, different culture, different parts where different people come in, and we don't speak English the way they portray it. So
But also, I think, a big theme in what I do and my approach to music and art is about truth telling first. So, like, for example, you have writer's block. You don't know what to do, where to start. I don't know how to write this song. It's like if you just start with something that's true, whether that's the inspiration or the first line of your song, I think you'll always, like, truth will always kind of open the next door from you and is the only sustainable option in life. But I think when it comes to, having the platform of music, and I guess now I'm doing music all over the world, I want to use those opportunities to actually truth tell about, the reality is that some countries and some places and cultures are really racist and they have racist stereotypes. They don't want to make the effort to learn more about other cultures in other places. And for someone like me who's raised in, so-called Australian society, which Australia is terribly racist, they treat their indigenous people like terribly. That it's essentially an ongoing genocide. And all of these things that come with being in a society like Australia, it's so easy, if you can, to just assimilate. People want you to say that you're Australian above everything else. I guess in some ways it's celebrated for being multicultural, but I think the undertone is still quite a racist society. So for me, even though I might get away with, I'm a bit racially ambiguous, I've got lighter skin, I speak English, I went through school and everything, I was born and raised there, I feel like you do a disservice to yourself, to your ancestors, and also to the people of whose land you're on if you're not telling the truth about where you come from and actually telling the truth about the beauty of all the diversity of the cultures. So yeah, I just wouldn't want to contribute to, saying I'm Indian, but not specifically telling the story of the specifics of the culture, specifics of where and what the landscape is like. Because otherwise you're just painting it all with one brush, and I don't want to do that.
I think that's plain and simple and like black and white, what you want, and that's pretty amazing to hear something like this, or a person who stays in Australia again. I'm pretty impressed, honestly. And again, you said that you like to paint it with truth, right? You're 110% on. I'm a person who does not have a mask on. So when I say that I'm pretty impressed, I am pretty impressed.
Take it.
The outside and promoting her culture. I think Andrew told me about you, right? And when he told me, I said, the last name Khasi? You sure? She was like, yeah. And she stays in Australia. I was like, really? And I checked it out. I was like, wow, that's then amazing. Secondly, she spoke about genocide, the recent genocide. I think she's talking about the Maori.
Well, I think there's a few layers to it. I mean, I'm not sure how political people get on this podcast, but
You can say anything.
okay, cool.
It's started talks.
Okay, great. Because I don't want to lie either.
Yeah.
Well, it's pretty obvious. I mean, luckily India, established independence. But Australia's still part of the Commonwealth, and you look at places like Australia, or we say so-called Australia because Australia was the name that was given to that country, but actually in Australia, same with India, it's not all the same. All the indigenous, like mob over there, it's like different regions have different language groups, foods, cultures, like people have different practices, and when you paint it all with one brush, you do a disservice to First Nations people of that country, or the many countries that exist on that land. And then you also look at like New Zealand or Aotearoa, that's still under the Commonwealth. You see what's happening with Te Tiriti, and I think what you're seeing across the world now is that when there's climate change, we're in a climate crisis, there is ongoing genocides in Palestine, and, even in so-called Australia, surviving those things and seeing Indigenous people from all around the world sort of finding these common threads and actually sort of banding together and truth-telling about how how say like languages can be lost, and that is a tool that's used to assimilate and disappear cultures and disappear people. So yeah, I think there is a real service that we have to do. I didn't grow up on this land, but I feel like for me not to identify as Khasi in whichever way people might agree or disagree, for me not to identify with it is taking the side of, I think, a colony, which would maybe prefer that I just say I'm Australian, but I don't want to disappear that part of myself. I'm also Samoan on my mum's side, so that's an island in the Pacific, and Samoa has had its own movement. Samoa gained independence in I think 1969 from the British. I sound like I'm really anti-British right now, but but yeah, I think, we see these threads and these commonalities, even though Samoa is all the way in the Pacific. And then you have, like regions in India where, here there's such a British, like a history of like the Welsh and the Scottish and the Brits. And I just think there's a lot of common threads that when we do actually get together and tell our stories and tell history from, even if it's the ugly truths, I think you'll find more common threads and unity between people that way. So yeah, I hope maybe in my music and even like in interviews like this, I can't force or tell anyone what to do, but I also believe like if I can just tell the truth about it, maybe it'll open some minds, or I don't know. What do you find the sentiment is here?
I feel like personally, most of us who have been living, who belong to countries that have been colonies for the British,
Yeah.
we share very similar sentiments.
Mm.
Our feelings are similar.
Yeah.
We have similar histories.
Yes.
We've been oppressed.
Yes.
We've been divided. And they conquered us. And they tried to loot us in any way they could.
Mm.
So India has been India was known to be one of the richest countries in the world
Yeah.
at a point of time. But we don't go and talk about it all the time. But I feel
The feeling is something somewhere same. It's like when it comes to, we might be divided at some point about the things, but when it comes to this kind of stuff, then we all come all together. So say we are like, okay, we're Indians. Yeah. At the end of the day, if someone tries to do something like that again, come on, stop there.
Well, but even if you look at the practical side of things, like say like climate change and the environment, who knows better with what to do with the land than Indigenous people?
that's very true.
And
Absolutely.
so when we're looking for solutions for like, I'm a musician, I'm not a scientist, but I know what it's like, say in Samoa, to revisit the same places over years and see, the ocean getting closer. My family in Samoa live right on the ocean,
Okay.
pretty much. Yeah. It's one main road that wraps around the ocean, and all of our grave sites are out the front of our houses. So we bury our ancestors on our house, like in our sort of village and right with our houses. We want them close to us. So what we're seeing also in other islands throughout the Pacific, or, the Moana, is, graves and bones being deteriorated from climate change and people having to retrieve their ancestors' bones that are getting washed up on the shores. And, that's, I don't know that anyone else will have the solution for that except for Indigenous peoples to those lands, and making sure that people have their land back, making sure that we're giving them the authority and, the actual leadership over their lands, the environment. Like, I'm happy to take leadership from Indigenous peoples about their lands. And I feel like, especially coming from Australia, I do feel like a responsibility that whilst I'm able to have the privilege of going around the world and doing music, and, I sing songs about Meghalaya, I sing songs about breakups and, everything in between. But then when it's, we get the opportunity to sit down and talk like this, I do think it's important to be like, I don't expect anyone else to know what to do with, the sacred forests except for the Khasi people,
So true. So true. Okay, so I think the conversation is going a little bit grim.
I mean, it's good to talk about hopefulness as well.
100%.
100%.
100%.
By the way, so like now we know you as Tiana Khasi. What is your actual name?
I can't say that on here. They'll know my government name. No, my name is Tiana,
Yeah.
but my surname, it's actually it's still an Indian surname, but I don't think there's any other Tiana insert last names in the rest of the world, so I probably keep that. But yeah.
Respect that.
Okay, yeah, 100%. We respect that. I think Tiana Khasi works perfectly fine. Like, very, very fine.
Mm.
It works very well.
Very
actually.
well.
I was really worried, like a part of it, because when I use that name, I had a lot of people say like commenting on like I've got a video on YouTube, and a lot of the comments were like, "Who is she? Is she really Khasi?" And like, what's the story behind this and everything. And I've also kind of wondered as well, like I feel like there's a risk using the name if people don't accept me, or there's like it's scary in that way. But I don't know. I just want to do people proud, so.
Because you did it, right? And I think you are doing excellent making people proud, and not only yourself. I think that was one of the best decisions you might have ever taken. Like, I don't know, you must know better.
Yeah.
I do, but I think one day you think back and it would be like, I'm pretty sure you'd be there somewhere, because you're already doing the world tours, you're doing music everywhere. So again, I feel like someday you'll sit back and relax in your couch, the cup of coffee, and you'll be
Yeah.
like, okay.
We did good. Yeah. Yeah. I think having those moments where I'm able to say, like, speak to my grandma and reflect on, like, when I told her about this, she was really excited for me, and even messaging me saying, "I can't believe you're there." And she's sending me like a list, "Make sure you go visit my school and visit this." And like, I really like giving that joy back to my family, and also making sure that they feel like worthy and they feel really dignified and important and not forgotten about. So I don't know. I don't know if I could think of another name that works, but this has definitely felt right.
Okay, so like let's come to your music. I was very what to say? I was
Curious?
I wouldn't say curious.
Interested?
Yeah, I was very like it got me really
Hooked?
what's the word?
He's
Not-
giving you lots of words.
I'm giving you lots of words.
No.
The audience.
I was intrigued.
Intrigued?
Yeah, I was intrigued when I found out that your album is titled Meghalaya.
Yeah.
So can you elaborate on that?
Yeah.
Like why, how, and like what went on during the whole album making with songwriting process?
Yeah. So I made that EP with Sampology. I don't know if you've heard of him before. He's a producer and a DJ from Australia. But he had actually just recently gotten back from a trip to India, and he'd been touring, and we were reflecting. We kind of bonded over, like different Bollywood soundtracks and a lot of like visual references. And yeah, when we started making music, I was just telling him a lot about the stories and, even just showing photos and like looking at the vine bridges and the waterfalls and, just trying to, I just wanted to share. And I think when I reflected on what knowing about my Khasi heritage meant to me, and even understanding the folklore, and this is a place that I hadn't ever been before, but in my mind and when I played music, it felt like a place I could go to. And yeah, I wanted the EP itself, it's not, all the songs aren't explicitly about Meghalaya, but say They Call Me is a song that I wrote about all the ways that say like that women, especially in literature and in stories, are historically, given the bad guy role. Eve ate the apple or took the apple down, and what happens to the world when we think that women made the wrong choice or whatever. But yeah, so I think a lot of the actual stories within the EP, they're not always explicitly about Meghalaya, but the practice of having this place that I go to creatively, this felt like it. And yeah, it was really beautiful arriving and driving in and going, I'm in my head, I'm seeing like up into the hills I run. And then I'm like going up in the car, and then everything's getting greener. And I was like, I haven't been here before, but it feels familiar. So I believe that, yeah, places like that, your body like knows in your DNA.
It's good.
Yeah.
It's positive.
Yeah.
You felt some kind of peace,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
that I'm in my land
Yeah.
after so many years for the first time.
Yeah,
By the way,
definitely.
I think people don't know it's Tiana Khasi's first podcast in India.
Yes, you got the exclusive.
Yep. Here for the first time in India. She's here first time in Shillong, and this is her first podcast, as she said, exclusively.
Exclusive.
So yeah, thank you again for that. I just wanted to share that part. I was holding it from a long time.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I remember you saying that I cannot drive here.
No, I can't. Look, I can barely drive in Melbourne,
You told me about the red light.
let alone, like, my boyfriend does all the driving.
Okay.
I'm a passenger princess.
Ah.
So here, there is no way I could do it. But nah, I like everyone's got good like flow and intuition when they drive. But yeah, I wouldn't get around much by myself if I was here. I'd probably just stay in my room and think about it.
Even I don't drive.
Okay,
I'm also a passenger.
we'll share a tab.
When you're giving him the keys all the time, like, you know what? Come to, like, sometimes I park the car in his house. Like, why don't you come by yourself? It's like, I wish I could, but I don't know how to drive. And this guy, he rides bike, but he does not know how to ride a scooty again.
I started recently.
He started.
Do you call it a scooty here?
Yeah, we call it a scooty.
No.
Scooty is a
It's a moped.
moped.
Okay.
It does not have a gear.
Ah,
Right?
Okay.
The accelerator.
It's a gearless bike.
I just think that's so adorable. You call it scooty.
Is it
Because
so cute?
Because I feel like everyone else they call it a scooter, and like especially Australian accent, a scooter. But scooty, that's so cute.
We call scooter the old
Old version.
version.
Yeah.
There used to be like with big engine like that.
It had gears as well.
Yeah, it had gears.
Yes.
That was scooter for us.
For us, without any gear, just brakes and accelerator, we call it scooty. And I think
So cute. I love it. I just want to get on one purely just to say, can I have a scooty, please?
oh, but that was funny. By the way, Tiana, as in the first time in Shillong, like you're reconnecting with your people, right? Have you been in conversation with a lot of Khasi people?
I feel like-
Do you feel anything?
Well, I mean, this is the first time I've been somewhere where pretty much everyone is Khasi. And you see the word on signs, and yeah, I don't know, in terms of representation, for me, it was always me trying to inform or like talk to other people and tell them what Khasi was or what it all means. And it's so crazy being here and actually just seeing, like, I see my grandmother, I see my granny in the faces of women here. Like, and like they're so tight. Like my granny and my grandma, they're just very small, and like it's even just down to like seeing the tartan, and there's just so much representation. It's kind of overwhelming to be like, wow, from feeling like maybe I'm like one in a handful of people that have Khasi heritage in Australia, to being somewhere where it's like I really stick out like a sore. I'm walking around with the band and we're like, oh my gosh, we look so not. But yeah, there's actually a community of Khasi women in Melbourne. I think they all connected over Facebook, and my first my first EP show in Melbourne, when I was launching the record, they all came to the gig and were waiting for me, and they were like, Tiana, we're Khasi as well. And yeah, I was like, how did you find me? And I don't know, I think a really interesting part of this whole story is like the internet has just facilitated so much connection. Social media, Facebook groups, YouTube, I think it's just the name and the word. Like if you're actually searching for Khasi people or trying to find that connection, the internet has just made it made it so possible.
Open path.
Yeah.
Even has become such a small place where everyone can reach anyone.
Yes.
Just the way we reached out to
Which
you.
is so beautiful though, because like then we got to meet.
Yeah.
I've discovered so many like Khasi musicians just from Instagram, like Meba Ophelia, Rebel, Khasi Bloods, like that. just discovering that whole community and world of musicians telling stories from this place is just, yeah, the internet kind of made this all happen. So
Thanks to the
it can't be all bad, you know. The internet
And-
does do some good things.
Well, just like the parents say, the old generations, they are like, internet is a very bad place. It's not. Like, depends on people to people. If
Yeah.
you know how to, handle, if you know how to take care of it, if you know your boundaries, I think it's the best place to go connect people. Look at us
Yeah.
sitting in.
I know, here we are.
Here we are, like a person from Australia coming all the way down to Shillong, who has a Khasi blood again, and who's trying to represent her, a background that's like, again, pros, So that's just so amazing.
I've got questions for you, right? So for me personally, I think it's important that when I'm doing shows and also just in my project, I feel like it's not just about me, it's about representing people and community and family. So for me, I'm curious to know what's going on in Khasi community and what's, even from a music perspective, like if I'm doing shows around the world, what is it that you feel like people need to know about either what's going on in Meghalaya or, what's going on for the Khasi people?
So I'm a person, I'm Garo, and he's Khasi. I think he'll be able to tell more about it, but I can definitely chime in when it comes to Meghalaya but again, the Khasi Garo Jaintia, we are part of Meghalaya. I'd love to chime in on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, go on.
So I'm also not Khasi. I'm mixed actually.
You and me both.
So both my parents also are mixed. So now coming to the question, so Shillong. A lot of people know that it's the capital of Meghalaya.
Mm.
A lot of the people also know that it's the rock capital also
Yeah.
of India.
Yes. Yeah.
So rock and roll played a very huge role in this place.
Mm.
So the earliest rock and roll bands of India originated from Shillong.
Right.
Yeah. So musically, Shillong has always been, not just Shillong, Meghalaya as a whole.
Mm.
Everyone is so much into music.
Yeah. It's a really musical place.
Every household has an instrument.
Mm.
Usually it's the guitar.
Mm.
We've seen
Electric guitar.
Yeah.
electric guitar, electric.
I mean, you just look at all of the bands that have come through the evening club and the history of, it's so much rock and roll,
Rock and roll.
soul.
Who's rich in culture when it comes to music.
Yeah.
Just like Andrew said, again, it's like it is one of the rock capitals in India, right? And people don't know much about it. Again, you going out there representing, make sure you say, hey, Tuppy, what?
You know what? I'm not a rock and roll musician, but yeah, I think it's cool to be able to show. I think maybe people always associate with tribal and traditional music, which is beautiful and should always be preserved. But also there's just so much going on here. There's all different genres but I love the idea that, yeah, rock and roll in India originated from Meghalaya or Shillong.
I was about to say that, again, when you asked us a question, what's going on, right? What should we answer you, the depths of giving you some kind of right? I think you're doing absolutely amazing. You don't need anything from us, honestly. Just do what you gotta do at your best. And being from Shillong itself, as I mentioned again, I was very happy that somebody is representing us. So yeah, that's all. And about Meghalaya, I think people started, honestly speaking, this after COVID, I've seen the jump of people getting to know about Meghalaya than ever. The tourists, the people outside. Now when I go out, Delhi, Bangalore, Nepal, that when they ask me where you from, I'm from India, Meghalaya. I'm like, India, Meghalaya, Shillong. And they're like, wow, that's a very beautiful place. And it makes me so happy to hear that, So I can slowly, people are getting to know it's a beautiful place. It's the most cleanest village in Asia is in Meghalaya.
Yeah.
Right? It's a rock capital. and people speak more English than anywhere, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, in Meghalaya, if I'm not wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong again.
No, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure. But even oh sorry, I just lost oh my gosh. I couldn't believe, so when I came here, I had the whole song, and even going around to all the tourist sites. Well, they're not tourist sites. I believe first and foremost they're just natural sites. I came in the dry season. I didn't come in the wet season. So I'm standing at the waterfalls going, up into the hills I run, waterfalls in the wet season. I came at the wrong time. But I think yeah, it's so nice having these natural places, because cities in India are so, like, if you've been to cities in other parts of the world, like India is the top in terms of like the busyness, the traffic, the vibrancy. There's so much going on. You could be really overstimulated. I love that this exists. It's like a peaceful place that you can come to and actually like decompress, and it's been preserved as well. I think that's really important.
True. I just want to add one more thing. I think in Shillong, we have a culture of biking as well.
Yeah.
A lot. So if you are here till Sunday, if you go out on Sunday, you see hundreds of people coming out of their house. So Sunday is a day where we go to church first. Then after church, we all like come out with our bikes and we all go for rides. It's a very rich culture when it comes to biking and especially modifying the cars.
Yes,
What-
yeah.
Have you seen it?
See, this is the thing. Even though Samoa and, Shillong are so far away from each other, I've seen so many similarities. The buses, the cars, everyone like doing all their like little car mods. Also like the bright colored houses. Like there's just like this vibrancy in like everyone puts their own flair onto what they do. And yeah, I wish I had someone else that's also from here and Samoa that we could talk and reflect on like all these ways that there's so many similarities. Also, I love the horns here.
Okay.
All the cars and the buses, their horns.
Yeah.
They're so boring in Australia. It's just a toot toot.
Okay.
But here it's like ba-da-da-da. They've all got like, they're so musical, even the horns.
But I think you're talking about the bus.
Oh, is that the bus?
Yeah, it's the bus.
The buses and the trucks actually.
Yes.
But we're the first person who, because I have seen so many YouTube videos, people coming from like different country,
Yeah.
specifically British or anywhere, US, and they're like, there's so much of honking in India.
So little gate.
They always see that them telling, in the traffic that first they hate the traffic. I don't mind. You're right. Second, they always talk about the honking, and you're the first person who said, I love the honking, I love the sound of the honk.
I like the bus and the truck ones. I think that's so cool that they're actually like musical. It's not just a boring beep beep. It's got a melody to it, You could do the remix, like the shillong, like horns.
I'm imagining you making a music out of that horn, like
Well, I'm traveling with a whole band, right? And everyone's like, obviously, they're very musical people. And when we've been traveling around or even just in the car, and then you hear the horns of the trucks and the buses, we all can't help but just be like, ba-da-da, ba-da-da-da. Like, we're all just like repeating the sound. So, yeah, maybe next time we come back, we'll do like a beat flip or something of sampling the sounds. Yeah.
you did mention about the tribe you are from,
Samoan.
So on my mum's side, I'm also Samoan, so that's an island. Yeah.
So you did mention you wish you had somebody he can
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah.
So who knows after this podcast?
Yeah. If you are a Samoan Khasi heritage person, please find me on Instagram. If you exist out there, I would like to know that I'm not alone.
Would love to connect.
But also, I feel like there's so many, like, that's this really specific thing about my identity and my background is I've been to all these different places around the world where my family comes from, and I've just seen all these parts of our cultures that actually line up. If you were to put it all together, it's like food, it's family, it's nature, it's like the vibrancy, the music, the dancing. I feel like if we all got together in one room, we'd have like the best party.
It seemed to.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
And have you tried the food here?
Yeah, I've tried a bit, but I think also just because we've been traveling, it's like we've been eating at weird times and
Okay.
everything. But I'm seeing my family tomorrow and having dinner, and we're going to do some proper Khasi
great.
food, which would be good.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Nice. I have one question though. What is the coolest thing you have seen so far in 4-5 days that you have been in India or Shillong or anywhere?
Mm. I think outside of all the natural beauty, because that's obviously just for me, it's like you get to the top and you look at the view and it takes your breath away. Apart from the natural stuff, I think people have really cool style in Shillong.
The dressing.
Yes, especially the women. I love all the different like the textiles and then the layering. I'm not sure of the exact. So I know like ginseng, like there's ginseng, so that's more formal. But the everyday, like
Okay.
I just love the mix of fabrics and patterns, and I feel like no one's trying too hard. They just all naturally have like this really cool, unique style. So yeah, I feel like I've just been watching people get around, and I just think everyone looks amazing. So I've definitely stocked up on some fabrics since I've been.
I think people here were very open. Very open. We don't mind what you think about us.
Yeah.
We are what we are, whatever we're wearing. I feel like the coolest, apart from again leaving Mumbai aside,
Okay.
I feel like Shillong has the coolest style.
Well, it's got this mix of like there's like the sort of vintage sportswear stuff, but then also practical because maybe people are walking or getting around working on bikes. But then you also have like all the tartan from like the Welsh and Scottish influence
Yes.
and all of those fabrics that were brought over and kind of, I don't know how they were introduced into, I guess, part of the dress. And I just think it's even being in places like the evening club and talking about like old generation music versus newer generations, and I just feel like there's this theme here in Shillong especially where people are able to hold the old traditional stuff as well as the new thing, and that comes out in like everything from fashion to music to buildings. And yeah, it's just something I'm noticing as like this common thread that is really impressive to me.
I think Andrew has been following you up in social media a lot, and he was talking about a particular tribe. You want to speak about it? If you are comfortable.
Yeah.
Maori?
No, like I think we have already covered that. You've been very vocal about the recent events in New Zealand regarding the whole Haka thing. The parliament is
Yeah.
and the news all over. So like, do you want to say anything about it?
I mean, I'm not Maori, so like I can't really speak on behalf, but I guess, yeah, like I was saying before, I think there's a common thread that we can all see throughout history. And I think especially, down south in like Aotearoa, New Zealand, and so-called Australia, you see that it's still quite new. Like they're only 200-ish years into like British occupation and colony. So I don't know, I just think we all have a responsibility to speak up and stand up for each other. I think I see the ways that, for Samoa having independence, for India having independence, that's something that I would want.
So that's just one of the reasons you're so vocal. So you feel deep inside that,
So I think it's the right thing to do. I think we can all, it doesn't have to be so complicated. You just know what's right and what's wrong.
True. Tiana, let's talk about a little bit about music, right?
Oh, music. Oh, that's why I'm here.
So coming back to your name, Tiana Khasi, you started your music journey. So we wanted to know a little bit about how you started and what type of music you are into.
Yeah.
And why have you chosen this music genre?
Yeah. I guess I was always listening to lots of different genres. My grandma really loves jazz, so I grew up listening to, she would always play like jazz, and she loves Stevie Wonder and, all the like the songs from, all the old movies and musicals. So there's that really romantic nostalgia kind of side. And then my dad was really into like Bob Marley, 80s Aussie, Aussie pub rock, like, and then also like I think it's on other sides of my family there's a lot of R&B, hip hop. All my cool older cousins and my aunties, they listen to Mariah Carey and Destiny's Child, so that real 90s 2000s hip hop. So I guess I grew up listening to a lot of different type of music, and I ended up studying jazz, but I was also introduced into, I guess, the music industry by doing vocals on electronic projects, because it was around that time where, you know, people would have electronic music and then they'd need like a female singer to do like a top line. So I got my start doing, like, I'd write my own little chorus and I'd record that, and then sometimes I get to tour and play, but it wasn't my music. It was me writing and singing on someone else's project. So it took a few years for me to, like, say, meet someone like Sampology, who's a bit more of an experimental producer, and then also, you know, meet other musicians and put a band together. And that's when I started to kind of explore things that I really love, like jazz and hip hop and soul music, and kind of infuse it in a way that, yeah, I guess represents the mix of cultures that I've come up with, but it's like a mix of genres. So yeah, I think it took a little while. I came originally from Brisbane, which is like a smaller city in Australia. So, you know, you kind of know everyone after a while. You do music, there's you know all the venues, and just playing a lot of live music helped me find my sound. And then the record happened, and then I moved to Melbourne, and, you know, Melbourne is like one of the music capitals of the world. And, you know, everyone's got favorite bands that they love from Melbourne. And yeah, so I think moving to Melbourne helped broaden my palette. But yeah, I think a lot of it has just been experimenting, working with producers, maybe doing more hip hop sampling, electronic music approaches. And then I'm also trying to do more traditional style songwriting, where it's like you've got a pen and a paper and you can write the song out. And, you know, in jazz, you have jazz standard, you know, like chord charts. So to be able to just hand someone a chord chart, they can read it and play along. You know, sometimes when you make more experimental music, it's like you have to learn it by listening, and, you know, it's not always super straightforward. So yeah, I've just been trying to work on becoming a really good songwriter, and then using production as a more experimental way of exploring sounds on a record. But in terms of a live show, I've been playing mostly just with, you know, a classic setup, keys, drums, guitar, and my vocals, and sometimes backing vocals. And I just really love, even though I can explore all the electronic production stuff in the recorded setting, I like my live music to be really live, you know, and just have more of that traditional band sound.
So basically, your grandma played a very important role
Yeah.
when it comes to your career and music.
Yeah. Yeah. She had a piano in her house and a record player. So
That's really cool.
yeah, so just as a kid, being able to play an instrument and experiment, or going through her records, it was such a novelty, because, you know, records back then weren't cool. It was just like, what is this thing? And she showed me how to use the turntable and put the needle down, and I just thought it was the most amazing thing. And now I've got my own record, so, which I actually brought one copy. There's only 2 extra copies in the whole world. They all sold out. So I've actually brought a copy to give to the evening club as as like a memento and a thanks. So yeah, there'll be a copy of Meghalaya on record in Meghalaya.
That's so crazy.
I know, it's a really full circle moment.
But you know, when you spoke about the grandma, the music, and it seems like music has been in your family from before. You know, it's
Yeah.
roots again.
Maybe not professionally though, like maybe not as like a career or in the music business, but, you know, there's music as a cultural part of your life, which, you know, comes from traditional songs or singing to tell stories and everything. But then there's also music as just like social and to clean the house. Like, you know, Samoan families, we are so house proud. And I just have really strong memories of when it's Sundays and Saturdays, you're cleaning the house in the morning, turn the music on, everyone shut up, put the music on and do your chores.
I have a pretty strong memory of myself. Even now, till date, I cannot clean my house. I cannot do dishes without playing a song.
Yeah, you need something, I don't know, and then it becomes the soundtrack of your everyday life.
Everyday life. So, who are your favorite artists or bands, so to say?
At the moment, I really love Cleo Soul.
Clear Soul.
Yeah, she's in the UK. She's an incredible writer and vocalist, but she's like she doesn't really like post a lot. She's keeps her life very private, but then she just puts out whole albums. So instead of going like one single here, one single there, she just delivers, like drops a whole album, and you kind of get lost in, it sounds like everything she says comes from a really authentic, free-flowing space. And, you know, she wrote this song called Know You Are Loved. And the only words of the song are, know that you are loved, even if you don't love yourself. And that's all she sings in the whole song. And it just repeats. And the more it builds up, it's like piano in a choir, and it just makes you cry. And even Snoop Dogg posted about this being like, this Cleo Soul song, man, like even me, like that got right to my heart. Only a mother could sing that kind of like song. So I don't know, I really like artists like her where, yeah, they don't have to overdo it. Do they
Connect.
Yeah, and it's timeless. So yeah, I really love Cleo Soul right now. But also I really am loving, I've just been listening a lot to the new to that EP or record that came out, Play Me. It had me Meba Ophelia. I think Rebel was on it as well, but it's produced by all local artists here. But it's like global sound. It's so big. Like, have you heard it?
I haven't heard it yet, but I will. But I know Rebel.
Mm.
She is doing amazing. She amazing artist. Right? We would love her to be on our podcast.
Girl, can you please get on this podcast and do?
So,
I'm passing the baton. It's your turn now.
but yeah, I was just thinking it would be so cool to see Tiana Khasi collaborating with one of our Shillong artists, you know, with a traditional music.
Yeah.
That would be crazy.
I think that's what I want to do. I want to come back hopefully next year, sometime soon, spend more time here. And I love like performing live, but that can be sometimes a bit stressful. It's a lot of logistics.
Yeah.
But to come back here and maybe do a recorded project where it's all collaborations and, you know, we create a new sound with traditional music, different perspectives. Like my perspective is going to be different to someone else. But, you know, we all have this thing in common that we can share and tell stories from. So, yeah. Please, to the arts funding gods, can you please help us make this happen?
I would really like if people, the artists of Shillong, if you guys are watching this podcast, it's a request because she's trying to represent everybody here. I would love actually the audience.
We could make a super group.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Right.
that would be.
Very interesting. So we would love to see a collaboration.
Yeah, I would love that.
Also, one quick question, fun question.
Yeah.
Dan, do you listen Hindi music? Are you into Bollywood or?
Not really. I like some of like the older disco stuff. Like in my head, straight up, I'm just thinking of Disco 82, if anyone knows that track. I like some of the older, like retro, like Bollywood disco music, but yeah, and I also love like how that's been sampled in hip hop as well. I feel like everyone I know that travels to India that are musicians, their first stop is to go to a record store and stock up on as much music as they can so they can go home and make beats and sample it. So
what about movies?
movies,
Movie that have you ever watched any Indian movie? Indian
Salameish. Is that like
Salami.
Ishq? Okay.
And any actor?
I've got the song in my head. Salameish, Ishq, Ishq, Ishq.
Just really brother. Like this is what Bollywood does.
It's so catchy, so catchy.
It is what is the vibe is so good. But
Yeah.
again, any favorite actor?
I feel like I don't know enough.
What about Australia? Like people, any actor that Australian people are fond of, which everybody knows. Maybe you too.
My gosh, I'm not like a big movie buff. And also, it's one of those things where you ask someone on the spot. I'm just trying to think Australian actors.
What about Indian singer? Like Indian in a sense, Hindi singer.
There's actually she sings in Tamil, but I had a mentor in Australia when I was at university. I studied music. So one of my mentors was Shoutout. I don't know if anyone's heard of her, but she's from Chennai. And she's an incredible singer. she's got like this beautiful kind of like alto sort of voice as well, which I feel like is very rare in that style of singing from a female. But yeah, I think it's like when you get put on the spot, I can't remember. There's-
But no issues with that. But it's good to I like that you have heard at least few in Indian song. And when you say that, you like the old disco music kind of
yeah,
right? Retro.
yeah.
I think old times the Indian music were somewhere else. They were so good.
The strings,
Melody.
all the string sections, orchestras, like the big record, like there's so many recording studios that were built and were working just to keep up with the demand for all the soundtracks. I find that amazing. There's such a big industry for it, even still.
Right. I would love to see a collaboration like you with an Indian artist as well. In your sense, in Hindi, yes, say that will go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Would love it. So all the best to that.
You can be my India-based like agent or something. If you could just put
Side of the
So, like, since we're on the topic of music, what's next? What's the next big thing for Tiana Khasi?
I mean, this was pretty big, this trip. It took a lot of work. It was like, I feel like it was years in the making to bring this trip together.
Okay.
So I think after I get home and I'm collecting myself and reflecting on this, I actually just put out a new single about a month or 2 months ago. It's called Good As It Gets. It's a bit more like a 90s like R&B song. And I feel like my first record, Meghalaya, was the statement that I wanted to make to introduce myself. And it's a bit more serious, and I feel like I have a side of myself that I really want to show that's a bit more like my humor. And, I'm 30, right? I'm an adult now. So I feel like for a while, I felt like I really had to hold back and make sure that I wasn't like crossing the line with stuff. And I feel like I want to put out a record that's a bit more like unapologetic and kind of gets a few things off my chest, and then we'll get back to the serious stuff. So yeah, I've just put out a single. I'm going to be working on the next sort of record and hopefully coming back here, and maybe I would love to come back for another festival season and also just, like work on that dream project we were talking about.
Okay, I see. By the way, we were listening to that song last night.
I was about to tell you that when we were texting, right? So that time we were listening to your song, being in our laptop.
Oh, true.
Okay, I told him, I was like, you know what? Let me listen to her.
Yeah.
And what was the word I said? Wow.
Wow.
I'll take
Honestly, yeah. No filters, nothing. I was like, wow, she sounds so damn amazing. And I was
Well, we're going to be playing that song live tonight. I've also loved playing it live too. But yeah, I feel like that sort of shows a bit of not a new direction, but it's just like another sound that's in my tank of options and stuff. But
so you're a part of a band, right?
I have a live band, yeah.
What's the name?
Well, it's just my project, so I just do everything under my name, and then
Okay.
and then I'll have like live band members that join me for different performances. But maybe we should give the band a name. I don't know. We'll figure out. It needs to be like Tiana Khasi and the something.
And the sun.
And the something. We'll figure it out.
So people are in the band.
It changes depending on the performance, but for this tour, I've brought 3 people with me, so I'm getting distracted because the band has just arrived to sound check.
Well, I'm like ready to see Tiana. So I think again, thank you so much for being on our podcast, first podcast in India that you have been on, and you're with us. I think I highly appreciate you for that. Again, I just want to say thank you to the Evening Club again for like making this happen, because we were supposed to host you in our studio, but again, it was too far for you. We had to come down here. So we just want to say thank you to the Evening Club. Thank you to you, your band. Looking forward to your music again.
Yes, I can't wait to play here. It feels really special that, out of all the places, this is where I get to do my India debut. So thanks for having me. And I really appreciate you following me down all the paths of where our conversation went, and feels nice to be able to like go a bit deeper and share more.
Share more. I think if the time was not limited, I think we can just talk and share like 2-3 hours and keep going. But sadly, you have a limited time because we has geek to play right now.
Yeah.
So again, thank you so much for being on our podcast. It's Uncharted Talks. As she said, exclusive.
Exclusives. Tiana Khasi exclusively on Uncharted Talks.
That's amazing.
You heard it.
You got it, the team. Cut this down beneath this. But again, so sweet of you. Like we texted as a team. You replied. I think I just want to let the people know she's the sweetest artist I've ever met. No filters. Period. Sweetest person. You replied to our text. You have invited us. You have been so kind. Updated us with so much of busy schedule. So I'll always remember this.
Oh, me too. Me too. Thank you. Should we end it on a?
All together.
Oh, yeah, ready? At 2, 3. So you guys are musicians. You're not doing it in time. 1, 2, 3.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it.
And guys, anybody watching this podcast, if you guys have made it till the end of the video, I appreciate you guys so much. If you guys want to like, subscribe, and hit the like button, depending on you. If you like it, please do it. If not, no hard feelings, because we're here for cashing. Yeah, thank you so much again. This is Uncharted Talks signing off with Tiana Khasi and Andrew Marak for the first time. By the way, before we end this, I think Andrew remember this because it's his first podcast too.
Yeah.
So Tiana
It's our first time.
yeah, forget it.
Yep. So this will be our memory forever.
100%. I don't remember maybe. Uncharted Talks.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you.